game ends. The next game's, right here. It's AFC North. It's the best team in the division who was defeated 21-14 by the Ravens on Sunday. And here come the Cleveland Browns on 4 days rest. I must say, as Luke Jones joins us here once again to talk some Ravens football, Luke, I know I jumped the gun on the Joe Flacco thing, when he was hobbling off on one leg. I don't think there was any reason for anyone in the stadium to believe that he didn't tear his knee up, right? I mean, when he came back out and it became pretty clear it was the brace, that was as strange a moment for any Ravens fan, probably for Joe Flacco's mother and father as well. Certainly John Harbaugh was confused by that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I thought it was the brace at first, but I saw the TV replay that, you could see it in his sock and clearly, if it had been a bone sticking out of his leg, he would have been screaming. I don't think he would have been hopping off the field like that. So I figured it was the knee brace, but until you get confirmation, you're going to flip out about that. And John Harbaugh talked about it after the game that as Flacco was hopping right to the locker room because they had to get a new one of those plastic knee braces replaced because he had broken his on a less than eloquent slide. As a few of his teammates opined.
Dude, he played baseball, man. I should have crapped on him because he knows better. He played a lot of baseball. Joe Flacco's done a lot of sliding. He has.
Yeah, he did. But
that was a Philadelphia slide right there is what that was.
Right. But it was simple. I mean, it was something that Harbaugh talked, as Flacco was hopping by him, he said, is your knee okay? And Joe didn't answer him, so John was thinking, well, that's not good. I don't like that. But then, of course, the Ravens made the announcement pretty quickly in the press box that he was fine. It was just that he had broken his knee brace, and fortunately his knee was okay underneath that knee brace. But definitely a scary moment, no doubt, a freakish moment. Can't recall seeing that too many times in any sport where someone had a knee brace like that. And we're not talking about, an ace bandage here. It's one of the bulky plastic ones that you typically see O-linemen wear. And we know Flacco's worn it all year. You typically don't see those breaks. So I have to say it, though. It was on Twitter. It was the PFT commenter made the comment that it's unfair that everyone was making fun of Joe Flacco for breaking his knee brace as he was running compared to Tom Hanks getting an Oscar from breaking his knee brace as Forrest Gump. I thought that was pretty funny. Maybe the best tweet I saw all day, but it was definitely
well, there was a hush, right? I mean, it literally, as he hobbled off, I went, there goes the season. I tweeted that, and, I'm not ashamed of that. I mean, I just if that's the way it's going to go down in Week 8 for Joe Flacco, things aren't going to look good for the Ravens. And instead, as I pointed out, a Willis Reed moment for him to come back onto the field and look no worse for the wear after the game. I mean, almost had a little bit of fun with it. Dennis Pitta was really giving him a hard time. He was getting after him pretty good.
Yeah, well, it's easy to have he wasn't hurt. So
of course.
It's nice to see, no doubt about it. It was scary. It was weird. Kind of I think I joked at one point that Joe Flacco's shattered knee brace was probably a good symbol of what that football game looked like for both sides for much of the 60 minutes. It was just kind of a weird, ugly, bizarre kind of game that, as I joked at halftime, the halftime score felt like it was Ravens bad, Pittsburgh worse. But the Ravens come away with the win. They got the big play from Mike Wallace. There wasn't a whole lot else to write home about in terms of this offense. I mean, you look at halftime, they had 232 total yards, and for the game they had 274. So it tells you how much of how little of a factor the offense was.
That's 2 yards a minute if you're keeping the score at home in the second half, right?
So it's clear this offense has a long way to go, and for all the fun that. The initial fear that Flacco got hurt, and then the fun that it was just the knee brace. Bad interception, and still not seeing a Joe Flacco playing at a very high level. And this offense has a long way to go. They got healthier. Clearly, it was good seeing Steve Smith and good seeing Marshall Yanda and good seeing Ronnie Stanley on the field, even if he didn't play well whatsoever. But this offense still has a long way to go if this team is going to make any real noise in the second half of the season.
All right, let's go one by one here. Let's start with Flacco because it all begins and ends with him, throwing off the back foot, throwing across the body. I don't I don't know psychologically when you come back, he looked better in September than he does in November. Just from a comfort standpoint, the yips, the moving around the pocket, just having some sort of fluidity in the way we've known him to play the game over 8 years, and some sort of calmness and some sort of fundamental and mechanical things that don't look right about him.
Yeah, there's no doubt. We've talked about this a lot. There's a lot that's been going on with this offense. I think in most cases we talk about the quarterback in the same way that we do the head coach. Probably gets too much credit when they win, too much blame when they lose. The truth lies somewhere in the middle for Flacco. He's clearly not playing close to his highest level. I think that's stating the obvious. But at the same time, is he the biggest reason why their offense has struggled? No. But the problem is he hasn't been enough of an answer for them either. He hasn't been enough of the solution for them. And, look no further than what was just an absolutely hideous interception that reminded you of Kyle Bowler or Vinny Testaverde or name any Ravens quarterback you want to think of. That play where Joe's rolling right, wasn't a whole lot of pressure on the play. It's not as though he was, had someone in his face and just threw across his body to the middle of the field. Brian Billick, our own Brian Billick said it best on Twitter. That's a throw that you never, ever can make in that spot. When you consider that came on, following the previous drive when Stanley had the penalty that knocked him out of field goal range. That right there cost them 6 points, those two mistakes. But, that was a rookie quarterback kind of interception right there. And, certainly the Ravens got the big play on the very next drive, which was probably way more what Mike Wallace than anything Joe Flacco did. He delivered the ball, certainly. But it just, this offense is still just searching. And I think what you said as far as the mental part of this, because there's been pressure, because and I don't even think it's a conscious thing for Flacco. I think it's deep down, deep within his brain waves, knowing what he went through last year, knowing the time that he put in rehabbing that knee, that, maybe there is some subconscious, I don't know, fear, but just some bad habits, some bad muscle memory being developed where his mechanics just haven't been there. Certainly when the pressure has been there, and even when the pressure hasn't been there, his mechanics have been off. It's just, they got to get him right. Certainly getting Yonda, getting Stanley back, getting Steve Smith back on the field is a nice start. But it's clear that offense, they won in spite of their offense after that first quarter. They got the big play, longest play from scrimmage in regular season history. Only play Shannon Sharp's 96-yard touchdown in the 2000 AFC title game, longer than Wallace's touchdown there.
Well, from scrimmage, we all remember the Chris McAllister and all that. The 108 yards and all that stuff.
Offensive plays. Here.
Sure,
right. So, but after that, this offense did really nothing. The best you could say were the times that they didn't move backwards. The Jernigan had the interception, and the best you could say about the offense after that was, well, they didn't commit any penalties to take themselves out of field goal range. That's just the kind of game it was for them after the first quarter. First quarter, certainly 95 of those yards came on the touchdown. No doubt, but they count, right? It's not saying that
every
they
one of them
apologize for that.
I'll take them.
But, they had 164 yards, and I think it was 4 first downs in that first quarter. That's the makings of a good day, even if you say, okay, well, 95 of those yards came on a touchdown. And then after that, they did next to nothing the rest of the way. It's just, and let's face it, in the past, if you're talking about a Ravens-Steelers game 10 years ago or even 5 years ago, you'd probably chalk it up to saying, well, that's a really good Pittsburgh defense over there. But we know statistically that is not a good Pittsburgh defense. That is not the Steelers of old on that side of the football. And clearly Ronnie Stanley had some big-time issues on the left side, and the Ravens, they just couldn't get anything going. I like the fact that Marty Morningwig didn't completely abandon the run, considering they did have a lead. It was nice to see the balance that they had, and again, that was a product of having a lead throughout the game. But 1.7 yards per carry, and Flacco 18 of 30 for 241 yards, and the bad pick. It's just, it's not good enough. It was good enough on Sunday because they got a big special teams play and their defense played their butts off. But they got to be a lot better especially as they get in later into the season and knowing some of these road games that they have. They got to find a way to find some more consistency on offense. They just have to if these final 8 games are going to matter, despite the fact that they're in first place right now, as I'll remind everyone.
Well, no one has more accountability than Flacco, and he's been the one that's mentioned, I need to play better. I'm sure he said that after the game on Sunday as well. Well, where are we with Marty Morningwig in the offense? I mean, there were a couple times they just threw the white flag up, right? I mean, there was a 3rd and 12 or 3rd and 15, and they're running a draw play to Kyle Juszczyk. I mean, I at that point just punt on 3rd down. I mean, you got a $25 million quarterback. You got some wide receivers out there that can go get the ball. Throw the ball and then punt. For me, I hate the draw play on 3rd and long. I just do. Just go ahead and punt on 3rd down.
Well, I mean, it depends on the situation. I mean, if it's 3rd and 20, then in most cases, and if you're backed up, then run a draw and get a little more field position. Give yourself some more room for a punt. Pittsburgh was very conservative early on in that game with Roethlisberger. I think it was clear his health was a factor. And, I know Flacco's, I know what his salary says, but we also know how he's playing right now. So, in some ways, I can kind of see the Ravens being a little more conservative in the way that they were, especially when they knew their defense was playing as well as it was, and Pittsburgh wasn't getting anything going offensively. So it's clear. I mean, as I said in a previous segment, this offense is a mess right now. It is. It was great to see the play to Wallace. It was a great effort by him. In fact, it was amazing. He said, incredibly, when we saw him miss much of the rest of the remainder of the first half with what the Ravens said was an illness, he kind of got lightheaded from being as fired up as he was over that play. But I mean, it's just this offense it's lost right now. It just is. I mean, Kenneth Dixon, who they were hoping would give them some a boost. Not that Terrence West hasn't done a really solid job for them, but he brought nothing. He hasn't looked very explosive. West didn't have a whole lot of running room other than early on. Really the first drive, some nice room there, and after that kind of went away. And again, Flacco, the final numbers, 18 of 30, 241 yards, a touchdown, an interception. That doesn't look terrible, but the timing of what that interception was that cost them 3 points at a minimum there. And that 295 of those 241 yards came on a slant pattern that Mike Wallace had a stiff arm and utilized his speed. I mean, it's just there wasn't a lot of production there. There just wasn't. And again, I don't want to sound like too much of a downer here, but this team fired its offensive coordinator after 5 games. Everyone wanted to blame Mark Trestman, and look, I didn't think Mark Trestman was doing a good job, but I think what we've seen in the months since then, I think it's very clear that the issues went far beyond Mark Trestman. So we'll see how much they can figure out. I think Morningwig, I don't know if he's done a terrible job, but hard to say that he's done a great job because, really not seeing a dramatic difference in how this offense is producing. Maybe cosmetically they've done some things a little bit differently. Maybe, who knows, maybe Mark Trestman would have gotten too pass happy despite having a lead on Sunday. Morningwig stuck with the run because they had a lead, but beyond that, it's hard to say anything but a big giant meh to Marty Morningwig as the coordinator. And how much of that's injuries, how much of that is maybe just not having enough talent. I don't know. It's probably a combination of things, but it adds up to an offense that is still not inspiring a ton of confidence right now.
All right, so we talked about Flacco, and I don't know whether it's physical or psychological or the scheme or the players around him or part of the protection or the injury from last year. A little bit of everything, right? But I mean, it's not right.
Yeah.
Part of it is the offensive line. The line that they put out on the field on Sunday, really for the first time since week 1, is the line they sort of want to play with the next 8 weeks, right? And I thought Alex Lewis had a pretty good game. Ronnie Stanley, horrible game. Marshall Yanda, not a great game, and we don't know where he is physically. He didn't even want to talk to the media after the game because I don't think he's proud of the way he's playing right now. Rick Wagner's on the outside, getting back into it now, and, of course, Zuda in the middle. But, at least they have something that on Thursday night's going to look like was on the field on Sunday, right?
Yeah, I mean, and that's what you kind of hold on to right now. I mean, the fact that they are healthier, even if those guys aren't 100%. And, as I said to you before this game, even when we were talking about Yanda, for him to miss 2 games with the shoulder issue, that tells me there's something structurally wrong with that. I mean, if he just had, some some irritation in there, some soreness, tendonitis, whatever you want to speculate about. He would have played with that. So that tells me that, whether it's a torn labrum or something, an issue with the rotator cuff, I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I haven't heard specifically what the issue is, but you read the tea leaves, you know what kind of player Yanda is, you know what kind of toughness he possesses. So we don't know what he's going to be. I'm guessing he'll still be a fine, above average kind of tackle, even if he's maybe not, or guard, but even if he's not the best guard in football the rest of the way. I think you're right. I thought Alex Lewis played well. I know Pro Football Focus in their really quick grades that they do after the games, he had the top offensive grade of any of their players, so that was good to see. I thought Wagner played pretty well. Stanley, work in progress. There's no doubt about it. And even James Harrison at his age has still made many a left tackle look pretty bad. So, it's something to remember. And, there was clearly some rust there. He acknowledged his foot's still a little bit of an issue. We'll just have to see how that goes. But that's what you do hold on to. This is their starting line. It's very clear. They look at Alex Lewis as their left guard, despite where Urschel might have been at the start of training camp. So they have their starting five intact. Now they need to build on it. And, I didn't expect their starting offensive line to just come, walk back on the field and be seamless. The first few weeks when they were together, it's not as though the offensive line was playing like the 1993 Cowboys. I mean, it's clear that this is a group work in progress, and health is the first step. Now they need to play more consistently as they get into the second half of the season.
Concerned about Stanley? Obviously physically he hasn't been out there for a month, and that's a concern unto itself. You can't help me if you're not on the field. Then he gets on the field, and I guess he's physically mostly right to be out there, but he was really flailing. In a way that could get your quarterback hurt, quite frankly.
I am concerned, and not in a way that I think he's a draft bust or that he can't play, but I think because he did miss so much time. And Nestor, enough. We're not offensive line experts, but we know enough that if you have an issue with a foot or a toe, like Jonathan Ogden, who had his career shortened by a toe injury, that it's really difficult to be able to play at a high level. And that's not to say that he's not healthy right now. It's not to say that he won't be healthy the rest of the year, but until we see him stay healthy and stay on the field and play at a higher level, there's going to be some doubt there. And then the reality is, this is a rookie. For all the great left tackles, and we know Ogden played his first year at guard. John Ogden was such a great player. He could have played left tackle. If Tony Jones hadn't been on the Ravens in '96, Ogden may not have been a Pro Bowler, but he would have been an above-average, really good left tackle as a rookie. But how many tackles around the league over the last 5, 6, 7 years, especially with this current CBA that's limited to practice time, limited to off-season time, we've seen offensive line play suffer, and we've seen lots of really talented left tackles come out of college. We talked about the spread formation at the collegiate level, that there's quite a learning curve there. There are quite a few left tackles who have even figured it out. A guy that's a good example this year, Taylor Lewan, from what I understand, I haven't watched the Tennessee Titans a whole lot this year, but I've seen articles and reviews of him playing at a really high level. But prior to this year, and again, we're talking about a guy who was a high draft pick, there were a lot of people who thought he was one of the worst left tackles in the league. So, there's a perfect example of you don't always figure it out right away. So in the case of Stanley, he missed a month of action. He acknowledged after Sunday's game that the foot's still a little bit sore. It doesn't mean he won't play Thursday. Doesn't mean he won't play at a high level. But until we see some of those issues stabilize a little bit, and you really don't like seeing the penalties, he credited that to not having good footwork, not being in good position with his technique. But I am going to have some concern about that. Again, not a long-term question that I think Ronnie Stanley can't play, because I think he is going to be a good left tackle in this league. How good remains to be seen. But in the meantime, there's a lot kind of working against him right now. With the state of that foot being at the top of the list.
You pick on Flacco a little bit. Darren Waller dropped a perfect ball at one point during the game. How do they feel about having him out there at this point? Between Crockett Gilmore, Max Williams, Ben Watson. I mean, this has gone on. I mean, they were lining an offensive lineman up at tight end at various points on Sunday. I mean, it's been kind of crazy at that position that as much as they've tried to get physical and get bodies into the tight end position, it's Dennis Pitta, and he's the least likely guy to be out there 8 weeks ago, right?
Yeah, I tweeted before the game that who would have thought 6 months ago, heck, even 2 months ago, that eight games into the 2016 season, the Ravens, with all their assortment of tight ends, we talked about this in the offseason. How are they going to keep all these guys? You know, how are they going to divide playing time? How are they going to keep these guys in the organization? That Dennis Pitta, who at the start of training camp, many people, media and fans were wondering, can you really, you know, and if he doesn't look like the same guy, can you justify keeping a roster, you know, having him take a roster spot and potentially letting go of a young tight end? Dennis Pitta would be the one tight end in the organization to have appeared in all 8 of those games so far here in 2016. You know, as far as Waller, you know, he's someone that I've been intrigued by as far as former wide receiver. He's got size. We haven't seen the Ravens really have that tall pass-catching target in the red zone. They clearly haven't used Pitta in a way where they're throwing jump balls to him. I don't know if that's by design. I don't know if that's just game circumstance hasn't turned out that way. But to me, Waller's a guy that's intriguing from a potential matchup standpoint. But you got to take advantage of your opportunities, and he had 1 or 2 of those and didn't take advantage on Sunday. So, you know, with Gilmore being out right now, it certainly hurts them from a blocking standpoint. That's why we did see James Hurst as a tackle eligible as a blocking tight end extensively on Sunday. So, you know, that tight end position right now, the Watson injury was unfortunate. We know Max Williams out for the year after undergoing knee surgery. You know, they lost Daniel Brown on waivers to Chicago. It's funny, you know, Nick Boyle's the guy that, you know, it gets popped for PEDs for a second time, 10-game suspension. Everyone's saying, oh, you know, this guy's going to be gone. Well, he's going to be eligible to return after 2 more games, and you know, the way it's shaping up, there might be a roster spot for him. Who knows? But it's amazing how depth in football, especially, can be so fleeting. It seems depth in football and with pitching in baseball. You can talk about all the depth.
Oh, we got 8 starting pitchers. Yeah, sure you do. Tell me in May what you got, right?
It can disappear so quickly, can it?
And it does. Luke Jones is here. He is Luke at WNST.net, as well as Baltimore Luke out on Twitter. We got plenty more to talk about leading up to this Cleveland Browns game on Thursday night. And, of course, the Browns lost again on Sunday. The Bengals take a little downtime, and the Steelers licking their wounds. They get after the Cowboys next week, and then we get them week after next. A little mini bye going on this weekend, and you can't lose to the Cleveland Browns. You just can't lose to the Cleveland Browns. So we'll keep saying that the next couple of days. You can find anything you miss here out in the Bayou. Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn radio app. We do come in crystal clear. Our morning newspaper ships to your email inbox digitally every morning on Planet Fitness at planetfitness.com. Getting it there to you. It's still $10 a month to get in the best shape of your life there. And last but never least, if there's breaking news, and there shall be some this week, at least with injuries as well as potentially with the Orioles and pitching coaches, amongst other things. It'll happen first on the WNST Tech Service. That is brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Dennis will be here on Thursday getting you ready for the Browns game on Thursday night as we all make our way back down to the stadium. It feels like hadn't been to a game at home in a while. Now we're going to be to a couple in a couple of days. Of course, my wife's donor, Niels, is in town. Hopefully you're following our journey out on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and Snapchat and Instagram and everywhere else that we do this. If you want to check us out streaming live, we're on Facebook Live as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. We're at Buffalo Wild Wings in Owings Mills every Monday night for the best seat in the house competition. This Monday is no exception. We'll be giving away the $100 gift card as well as the limo from Fully Loaded Transportation. I'm Nasty at WNST.net. This is WNST Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.